This is a New York City Jewelry Week special in their element with Eugenie Niarchos, founder of Venyx. So I'm so delighted that you can join us, Eugenie, and thank you for being part of NYC Jewelry Week. It's so exciting to have you here.
Thank you. I'm really happy and honored to be here with you, and I'm looking forward to our interview.
Yes, so I suppose we best, start. I mean, Venyx, you've been going for some time now, but I always like to ask people a little step back for when they founded a jewelry house. So could you tell me when your love affair with jewelry first began and how it's evolved to this point where you set up your own house?
Well, I've always been attracted to jewelry, and you know, it's sort of like for me, jewelry was always like little treasures. So people would be wearing like these little treasures on their, you know, around their necks, on their hands, and everything. And as a child, I'd see my mother wearing jewelry, and I was sort of intrigued by the colors of the stones and how they would shine and all of that. Although I never thought that I would do jewelry as a kid. I was always very creative, and the fashion world was more sort of, well, fashion was more I thought fashion was my calling. So I would love to dress up. I always loved wearing, you know, sort of crazy clothes and experimenting with outfits and mixing and matching and adding jewelry also. I mean, jewelry, I would say costume jewelry, or even making, you know, my own things like with rubber bands and this and that. So that was me growing up. When I turned 18 and I finished school, I did a bunch of internships in the fashion business, and I thought that was going to be my future job. But while I was doing that, I was also asked to create a collection for with a childhood friend of mine who had a family jewelry house called Repassi, and I was asked to collaborate on a collection. And we started with a collection that was pretty cool at the time. It was these sort of rings inspired by different cutouts and like sort of a lace pattern. And we made these really cool ear cuffs. And at the time, we were the first young jewelry designers out there. And then I realized by doing that I really loved how jewelry was this kind of everlasting object, and that it was something, it's not as and fast, like, I mean, like people that create jewelry, like jewelry is something that sticks or that stays. That's it. Compared to fashion, that's something it's such a quick changing environment. You know, you have collections every year, and you wear something, and after a couple of years, you don't wear it anymore. And I love that side of jewelry, and I really realized that that's what I wanted to do. So that's how I started. That's how I went into the jewelry world.
Yeah, and it's so interesting what you've just said about how jewelry endures and is less governed by seasons and such. So I just want to actually ask. Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it just you froze for a second.
Okay, sorry. So no, so I was going to just say that what you said about the enduring nature of jewelry and it being, unlike fashion, not so governed by trend and season. And I just want to ask you, because obviously it's more thematic and it's something that I've seen in your work at Venyx, and we can sort of dive into your most recent collection, which is Mother Nature. And obviously, you know, there's been massive talk in the environment. So on one level, one could say, oh yeah, it's something people are talking about, but you come at it from a different approach. So I want to ask you what the genesis for Mother Nature was. Was it just a pine to the planet, or what sort of brought you there, and how to realize that theme?
Well, the collection, for me, it was something that it was, you know, I go to a lot of stone fairs, and I interact a lot with with stone dealers and all of that, and you know, when you work with jewelry, you're working with you know, mother nature, so you're working with objects that come from the earth. And it's really something that's always been in the back of my mind, you know, especially now with everything that's happening, you know, with global warming and all of that. It's you know, everyone, you know, you start a new company and you're trying to be creative, but at the same time, you know, this creation is not necessarily, you know, obviously you're making something, so that's also changing, not necessarily the best for the environment. Like obviously anything that you make, unless it's like handmade, well, all jewelry is handmade, but you're also, some of it is made in factories, you know. So there's an element that comes from, well, that's how could I explain it, that's you know, you're sort of, it's all related to the earth at the end of the day. So so yeah, so this collection, Mother Earth collection that I did, it was really a collection to give back to the planet. And to give back, it was to make people aware of this precious planet that you live on. And it's a little atlas, like I made these little atlas pendants and little planet earrings, planet Earth earrings, planet pendant, and a percentage of those sales was donated to, is still donated to Sea Legacy, which is a sea conservation charity. And yeah, and it was just, this collection is definitely for you know, for you to remind yourself that our planet is as precious as like the little jewelries that you're wearing on your neck, around your neck, basically.
I think it's also, you know, it sort of stems back as well to, you know, jewelry is so personal and one wears it on one's body. So anything that one wears on one's body is like a constant reminder, goes onto your skin and such. And I just want to, you know, because I see in your work, in addition to this sort of connection with Mother Earth, there's a lot of sort of almost intergalactic discussions going on through the thread of your pieces. And, you know, it starts with the name of your brand, which is obviously a portmanteau of the planet Venus and the gemstone onyx. And I just want to ask you, first of all, you know, what made you do that? And then sort of apropos that, we can sort of talk about, you know, this otherworldliness feeling, because it also stems through, you know, when you look at some of your collections, like the Pile connection, the Pile series, the Astrea series, they all sort of point to outer space and the galaxies. And I just wanted to ask, you know, what sort of got you onto that discussion and that pathway?
Well, since the beginning of when I started my brand, I've always been myself not interested, but attracted to the stars and this and that, and astrology too. My sign is Cancer, Cancerian. So, you know, I'm sort of like one of those creative and sensitive signs. And I've always been attracted to the sea and the sky together. So it's funny. So you'll see, so basically in most of the collections you'll see a little hint of stars in a piece, or little stars in certain pieces, because it's something that's I'm very much, somehow it's people come to me often for stars. They shop for stars at Venyx. It's one of our best-selling products. And it's a sort of thing of otherworldly element that's sort of in my brand, right?
No, sorry, I've just realized that we've been talking for 15 minutes and I've been mispronouncing the brand's name. So it's Venyx rather than Venyx.
I say I say Venyx, but some people say Venyx, so it's fine, you can say both.
No, it's always important when you're actually
you can say both. Yeah,
to pronounce it properly. And it's just interesting because also when you're talking about being very, you work very closely with stone cutters and you work very closely with people in the gemstone industry. But you also are, very much known for sort of radical juxtapositions of materials. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the Marina necklace, because you've got mammoth tusk mixed in with that, or your oryx earpiece, which is ceramic and gold. And it's just some interesting juxtapositions. And obviously mammoth tusk has been around for millennia. It's way more environmentally friendly than using elephant tusk, obviously less problematic. But it also seems like these radical discourses are useful for being a little bit rebellious in your material choices. I just wanted to find out what governed that, what sort of prompted you to go down that direction.
As I said, I when I sort of design a collection, I go to all of these stone fairs, and I go to the Tucson Gem Fair, which is, this sort of paradise for gems, right? Because that's where you discover new gems, that's where you discover new materials, that's where that's sometimes where I get inspirations for my collections, because you fall on a stone or you fall on a material and you realize what you want to do from that. So using different materials is always something that sort of attracted me, because I don't think that jewelry has to be necessarily just gold and diamonds. I think it's always interesting to add something else to add to the story, right?
Yes, totally.
The way that I wear jewelry is I like to design pieces that you can wear as day and night. So then it's not just evening jewelry, it's jewelry. So, if you're going to buy it, you have to make the best of it. Right. So, so for example, I'm wearing this emerald necklace, this narwhal, which is emeralds and opals, I think.
Yeah.
And it's something that, so similar to the Marina, it has like these sort of little hanging pieces. The Marina has the tusks. No, what was it? The mammoth. The mammoth
tusk. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Which I also got in Tucson, and this one has little emeralds. I mean, those are more. This is more of a traditional piece, but it's the same style.
And it's just really interesting because there's a sort of very contemporary way of wearing jewelry, as you just rightly said. If you're going to buy a piece, you want it to have multiple usage. You don't want it just to be something that sits in a vault and you wear twice a year. You want it to be something that becomes part of you. And I see that throughout your various collections. I want to ask you, as a result, the theme for NYC Jewelry Week this year is the power of jewelry. And I want to ask you, from your place as both a creative and a maker, as well as, someone who has founded your own brand, what do you feel is the power of jewelry? I mean, how do you feel jewelry imbues its power? And you can be as pithy or as profound as you choose.
For me, it's funny. I love making pieces that have a meaning and a story around them. If you look at all my collections, there's always a story around the piece. If it's the name related to the choice of stones, the choice of materials, like you said, apart from mammoth, I've also used meteorite in one of my pieces. I've used other pieces that some people don't consider a stone. It would be more of I'd use a material and it would look like a stone, for example. So there's multiple ways of making and wearing jewelry. So and as I said, I like every piece to have a meaning. So when I design jewelry, I think of how I would wear it. And for me, it would be like a story that I have on my finger, a story that I have around my neck. And at the same time, if someone will buy it and for themselves or give it to someone else, I want it also to have a meaning for them. So I think you know, there's a meaning around the choice of stones. There's a meaning around the what the stone represents. There's a meaning on how you wear the piece, and it's you know, you feel comfortable. Like I like jewelry I like to wear to make pieces that make you feel comfortable wearing them, that the person feels beautiful, that, you know, the person has a funny story on their hand. And sometimes, you know, it could also be a symbol of protection, you know, a symbol of just something to add onto your outfit to like spice it up. There's so many different ways of wearing jewelry. For me, it really makes my life happy. Like I love just adding a piece of jewelry and just seeing it, you know, and I just feel like I'm ready to go that day with my piece of jewelry. I feel naked when I don't have a piece.
Yeah, totally. I completely can relate to that. And I think that talismanic quality that it has a profound meaning, and also a piece that both tells a story in and of itself, but also speaks to your own personal story in terms of, you know, how you relate to it. And, you know, you know, it sort of brings me neatly to, you know, your Greek heritage. And one often sees them all across your series, like the Marine series to, you know, other series that you've done. There's always a sort of hint at Greek mythology, deities, and, you know, again, sort of marrying the intergalactic with the earthly. And I just wanted to ask you, I mean, is that something very important to you? You know, when one looks at sort of historical Greek designers, like, you know, the likes of Lalumis and Solotas, they often look to antiquity, but you're almost having your identity, but also making it very futuristic. I just wanted to ask you a little bit about that, because it's something that really stands out across all of your collections, and it would be great to just hear your take on that.
Yeah, so basically, as I told you, you know, the story of each piece is always very important. And considering that I have, you know, strong Greek heritage, for me, it was important to add that also in my company, because that's sort of my background. And I think it's not just Greek. Obviously, that's probably what you saw, but there's many references to antiquity throughout my collections, and not just Greek, but I've always been drawn to these old, you know, what's the word,
sort of ancient
myths, and ancient civilization.
I definitely saw that too.
Yeah, I love, you know, I spend a lot of time going to museums, looking at ancient cultures. Even at some point, you know, I was also going to, I was very much interested in the Incan and the Mayan culture. And so there's a mix of all of these different cultures that really, really inspire me, because I find them so interesting and so mysterious, you know. And also, if you really dig through it, you'll see they used a lot, you know, you'll see these sort of gold statues mixed with different stones and this and that. So there's really like some heavy source of inspiration in all of that. Definitely. And at the same time, I'm, you know, when I'm like, in my aesthetic is very much inspired by these pieces, but I kind of tweak them and try and make a piece that's modern, you know, and that's something that, you know, definitely that would be contemporary.
Yeah, there's definitely that fusion. I mean, that sort of futuristic pretension of antiquity meets futurism. But also what I find as well, and, you know, you've somewhat touched upon it in your answer just now, is travel. One can sort of see that you take people on a journey to different parts of the world through your pieces. So I wanted to, you know, ask how travel has imbued sort of your jewelry practice. For example, India's known for emerald carving, all these different techniques with how people utilize gemstones, and how that's also, you know, inspired you, you know, when on your travels and such.
Wait, so sorry, so you just, which country
Yeah.
has inspired you the most,
Yes, which
or in general?
countries, if in general, whether it's been travels with certain countries or
Yes.
certain techniques that are native to different countries, if you really, I'm quite curious to know what has really sparked your,
Yeah, so in general, when I told you before, I was like, sort of also at some point I was very interested in like, Mayan culture. So at that point I traveled, I went to Mexico, I went to museums there, I went to other places. At some point in another collection, I was very much inspired um, by India, but India is always one of those places that I always love to go to, because there's so much inspiration in the colors that you see in the country, and like the mix of colors and the sun there. And yeah, so in general, I really do love to travel because I get very much inspired by cultures, antiquities, colors, anything really. So it's really, for me, it's really something that plants, food, everything sort of inspires me, and everything pushes me towards, designing a new collection, or something comes out of it. So in general, I can't really say to you which of the countries have, but yeah, India is always one of them that I always go back to. But Asia is great. Like I went to Burma many years ago and it was unbelievable. I went to Bhutan, and all of those countries really are great for inspiration.
No, I mean, I think also what's really, again, evocative is going in all of your collections and actually in your brand as a whole is this notion of bringing the world together and also taking it across time spans. So, I mean, I that's what I really evoke from your work and such. But I also wanted to ask you, when you design, have you noticed as your brand has expanded that there's a Venyx person, woman, man, someone who sort of tends to be drawn to your work? Or do you find that your work transcends age, demographics, or are they, because some designers often sort of then end almost having a little crew, call it like a Bauman army, the jewelry edition. So it'll just be interesting to know if you've noted that as your brand has expanded and grown, if there's been a sort of client that's connected with it strongly.
So it's interesting because obviously I'm not the biggest, I'm not a huge brand, so I do have a very niche clientele. Although in the pieces that I design, I always try and think of different ladies, and now I design for men also. I've designed pieces for men, and there's been like, I've had clients from very different, I've had older ladies who don't really know much about fashion, love the pieces because they love the intricate details, or I've had like a very fashionable fashionista that wanted like the anklets. I have like different types of clients, and a lot of the time, but it's true, a lot of the time clients come to me for colors and stars, because the stars is something that you can just easily wear. And yeah, and that's quite, I'm quite lucky like that, because I have faithful clients also.
Yeah, exactly. Especially, in light of, as you said, when you're not a big behemoth jewelry brand, it does become something about sort of, creating something that resonates on a really sort of meta level with people, because it's not about having big flashy campaigns and, billboards in Times Square or whatever. It's about sort of people coming to you and knowing they're getting a specific sort of aesthetic and design language. And we've touched upon gemstones and stuff, but I wanted to ask, because I've noticed, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you seem to have a bit of a love affair with opals. And then of course you did the collaboration with Muso, the emerald producers. Are there particular gemstones you're drawn to, and if so, which ones and why?
Well, you just got them both right. I really love emeralds, and I really enjoy working with Muso because they sort of send me stones, and sometimes it's just a bit of a surprise what comes in, and from that I'm able to create beautiful pieces. And I've had, and people actually, now I forgot to mention before, I told you people come to me for stars and colors. The Muso has been really quite popular, and emeralds are just so, the emeralds are just so beautiful. So that's one of my favorite stones. Definitely opals. I love opals, and especially really beautiful ones. I love the different colors that you see in opals. I love that it's a stone that has so many different, you can see it in so many different colors. That sort of like a little world that you have on your
it's a kaleidoscope, right? It's like a kaleidoscope. Yeah,
it's such a special stone. It's quite special, and I really love colored diamonds, although I don't really use that many of them, but that's really another stone that I love.
No, it's so interesting because I do think that opals are often, they're the variance of color makes them super exciting. I mean, I know, that they can sometimes be tricky because of their hardness, but they are absolutely exquisite. And, the Muso collaboration that you've done, and is that going to be something that you think you'll be ongoing with them in terms of collaboration?
For the moment, it's ongoing. I don't know, what their plans are, but for the moment, I still have some pieces that are in work. Amazing. But I really, really love working with them. I hope to be able to work with other stones also. I mean, I really do love rubies too, and I'd love to be able to explore that world, and obviously colored diamonds.
Oh my goodness, colored diamonds! That could be a whole other conversation as well for us. But and also again the potential and things that you could create that are intergalactic, given that that's something that's very much in your theme. And I wanted to ask you as well, just rounding up our sort of questions. I want to ask you, when you think about Venyx and you think about how it will grow, and there's been a lot of talk about how we consume jewelry and how we consume jewelry in the future. I mean, how do you see, your house growing and developing? Have there been anything since the light of the last 2 years that we've all had that have sort of changed how you do things, or what are the future plans for us to look forward to from you guys?
Well, we've been pretty, now Christmas is coming up, and we had because of COVID, we obviously we had some collections that were pretty that were pushed back in terms of timing. So now I have like 2 collections which are coming out. I have 2 more that are coming out in the beginning of the year. So I have all of these designs that were not being produced that are going to be launched. So it's pretty exciting, and I hope it's not going to be too overwhelming, because sometimes with certain when you have too much choice, it's too much. But what I am doing now going forward is that with each collection, I'm donating a percentage to a charity. So I was doing the one for Mother Earth. I'm doing a new one now with one of the new collections that I'm launching. It's not out yet, so I can't really say. But I have all of these new little collections that are coming out, and a percentage will be going back to a charity, because I just think it's very important to give back, especially with a company that's a jewelry business, which is,
I think it's really important. I mean, I think the human aspect, and sort of, I think we've all become a lot more wanting luxury, to be more compassionate, and like I said,
exactly, that's what I meant. Exactly.
And you've been doing it, you were ahead of the trend, really, because with Mother Earth, it's not like you're doing it as a response to COP26 or a response to the climate, climate emergency. So it's really quite incredible to see that you've not just exercised that, but you've continued you've continued that onwards in your future collections. And, so also I wanted to ask you just, before we sign off, because we always ask anyone who's participated in their element, what are the handles? How can people continue to reach out? How can people buy a little bit of Venyx for themselves? Is it all online platforms, or are there any retailers in New York or elsewhere that they can go and get pieces from you?
We're mostly online. We have a shop we sell in a shop in Los Angeles called Just One Eye.
Mm-hmm.
And we sell on Twist, which is also a great website for young jewelers. And we have we have a few stores in around America, which they're all on my website. So
amazing. So everyone just needs to either head to your website or head to your Instagram and take it from there. Eugenie, thank you so much. It's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for making the time, because I hear it's been a bit hectic for you with the travel. So we're really, really appreciative, all of us at NYC Jewelry Week, that you're able to make it and be part of this year's programming. So thank you again.
Thank you. It's been really nice to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Amazing.